my colleague Stefano MAULLU. He's from the EPP group. Previously, he was a regional councillor in Lombardy, and there he was responsible for civil protection and police. And since 2014, he's a member of the European Parliament. His region, Lombardy, is also well known for its very lively tradition of sports shooting. You have the floor, sir.
Bene, buongiorno.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to our colleague, Mr. Kulm, for organising this very interesting debate. I'm going to speak Italian. You've got interpretations. Better to speak good Italian than bad English. I'd like to thank Mr. Petroni because he used a description that I would have liked to have done myself. I believe there is an overall representation of how wrong this proposal is in terms of its direction. All of that was touched upon in the first panel. I believe that we have the rather plastic representation, artificial representation of what Europe is at this moment in time. On the one hand, we have bureaucracy, and on the other hand, we have the efforts that MEPs make to try and stop from these terrible effects from coming about. Vicky Ford has made significant strides to make sure that something which shouldn't necessarily be touched shouldn't become worsened. Nothing is being improved upon with this proposal with regards to security. Everything that pertains to terrorism and the media spotlight which has prompted this proposal, I believe all of this should be firmly rejected because it doesn't help anyone. Hunters, those who collect firearms, people that build firearms which are part of tradition and culture and sources of interest. Specifically in Brescia, within my region of Lombardy, we have some organisations such as Beretta, which I think you're all familiar with, that create wonderful rifles. And the owners of other organisations are here which create wonderful replicas. I believe traceability of these firearms could actually produce negative impacts in the manufacture of these. They would create a huge series of problems for these manufacturers, and I don't necessarily they would bring about benefits. I would tend to vote no with regards to what Vicky Ford has said. Once again, there's so much red tape here, and there aren't necessarily advantages for the final users, nor indeed for citizens. Mr. Alexis referenced terrorist attacks on a number of occasions. As you know, most terrorist attacks have been caused by explosives as opposed to legal firearms. And the only weapon which is not produced in the member states that we represent, the Kalashnikov, is the main weapon used by terrorists. They don't use Beretta hunting rifles or the M16, for instance. They use thousands of models which have come from the former Soviet Union. It's the Kalashnikov which is being used, and I think we need to realise this. Once again, there's no data documentation or statistics on there, and I find this even more concerning because when you put forward a legislative proposal, you need to really make sure of those people that are representing 500 million people. This type of approach is frightening. It's an emotional approach which will affect millions of people who work within the manufacture, the production, and those that own firearms. Hence why I believe we can only bring negative assessment all of this, despite of the strides that have been made and will continue to be made until December. I also believe that through what you have said with Vicky Ford and Mr. Kulmer and other colleagues are going to bring forward this battle, because this is the best way to raise awareness for those people that aren't representing citizens' interests, but they're simply the worst example of bureaucracy that we don't want to see here in Europe.